Hello, my friend. Welcome back to the Mindset Check podcast. I'm your host, Mesha McKittrick. This is a podcast where we believe that as you take time for a mindset check, you have more power than you think you do. And where we also believe that heart coherence gives you access to peace and ease. I cannot wait to get into this with you today. And we have a guest. I can't wait to introduce you to her. Season 3 of the Mindset Check podcast, we're focusing on creating a blissful internal state. And heart coherence is such a catalyst to helping us create that state inside of us that is, the most desirable, the place that you could get to that would feel the very best for you. And some of you are new to the podcast, and you might be new to the idea of heart coherence. And in this podcast, you're going to really get a feel for what that is. And to start out, I wanted just to give you a bit of a definition of what heart coherence is. If you're kind of in this state where you're like, wait, what are you talking about, Mish? The HeartMath Institute defines heart coherence as a high performance and healthy state, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. The state that brings out the very best in us. The term coherence implies harmonious order, connectedness, stability, and efficient use of energy. Coherence can be seen all around us when we observe life through the lens of the heart. Beauty and intricate balance of nature is a magnificent demonstration of coherence. Increased coherence happens at times within the human experience too. For example, most of us have had days where everything seemed to flow. We felt good, composed, and clear. We were able to adapt quickly to whatever came our way with balance and poise. In the 1990s, HeartMath Institute researchers identified a psychological state called heart coherence, a type of coherence that occurs when our body's systems, our breathing, heart rhythms, brain rhythms, and hormonal response are in sync with each other. They also discovered that heart coherence not only affects physical processes, but also our mental and emotional balance and composure. Their research showed that heart coherence can be self-generated, leading to less mental and emotional stress and more inner security and stability. In summary, heart coherence is a synchronized and empowering state, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, allowing us to become our best selves. So that's a little snippet that the HeartMath Institute has written around heart coherence. Essentially, it's a state that you can generate within your own self. And the gateway to that is something that looks like meditation. Meditation and heart coherence can be independent. You can meditate without being in heart coherence, and you can be in heart coherence without being in meditation. But the best way to find it is kind of through meditation. And so today, to really give you a glimpse at heart coherence and like, so what? So what does that really mean for you, right? I decided to interview my neighbor who's around the corner. Her name is Kaylee. She is a plant enthusiast. She's a runner. She's a mom of young children. She's a pianist and a choral singer. She sings in a local choir, and she loves to accompany and play for people. She loves hosting parties and gathering women. This woman is phenomenal. I love Kaylee. So she's one of my good friends, and she lives around the corner from me. She actually purchased the Heart Sync course because she was really interested in meditation, and she had talked to me a few times about heart coherence. So recently she was dropping off just some homemade baked bread. I mean, come on. She's amazing, right? She was bringing me a loaf of homemade baked bread, and just to be kind. And she said to me, oh, and hey, Mish, because she was talking to me about lots of other things. I really need to talk to you. I want to tell you all about the Heart Sync course and about heart coherence and how it's really been helping me. And I was like, what? So cool. Like, I love having conversations like that. And after she left, I thought, you know what? Why don't I just have you guest on the podcast? And while you're telling me, you can also tell my audience. And that will give them a really great grasp at what like heart coherence could do for them in their lives. And so it is in that spirit that Kaylee and I are jumping in and having this conversation. And here she is just ready to tell me what she would have told me that day, or if we had gone on a walk together, just how heart coherence is really helping her, how it's really affecting her life. Let's jump in. What's up, girl?
Hi.
I'm so glad that you decided to come and talk with me and share with me so much of like where you've come to and what you have gained and learned. I think heart coherence is such a powerful tool, and I think so many people would have great advantages if they knew how to access heart coherence. So when you came to my door the other day and like we're like, I gotta tell you, I'm like, oh my word, let's just do a podcast about it. Let's just sit down and tell me all the things that you have to tell me about HeartSync and about what you've come to. So I'm just gonna let you start and just tell me like what you've learned, what's different. You can just start with whatever you want to start with.
Okay. That's a big open-ended question. But I guess I was thinking the other day about like where I was 6 months ago, and everything I gained from heart coherence, I think happened so gradually that I didn't notice it at first. I knew that I enjoyed it, and I knew that it was bringing me a lot of peace daily. But in hindsight, looking back, I kind of had this big aha moment where I realized how different my life is now than it was before I was meditating and practicing heart coherence. And that's where I was just so excited and I wanted to talk to you about it. Because really, I think I told you this when I started the course, but I'm not someone that I think is a natural meditator. Mm-hmm. I'm a very busy person. Mm-hmm. I think I have a high capacity to get things done. I love being productive. Like that's always kind of been my MO, is just like, I love the feeling of getting stuff done. And so sitting there in silence has always been a little bit like, bleh. I just like, I don't want to do it. I just want to do something. And I have 4 young kids right now. And so life is especially just busy and crazy. But I was at a point in my life where I was like, I want more stillness, but I need to make it happen because of my personality too. And I don't know if you were ever like that, but I just looked at you and I'm like, well, I'm just not like Mesha. Like I don't have that natural like zen about me. But I wanted it, and I would talk to you and I knew it was like I was drawn to it, but I couldn't make it happen because it just felt too hard with my stage of life. And so I decided to take the course. I'm like, this will make me do it. And then I'll make a goal to meditate a certain amount of times a day. And with my personality, I was like, that will make me do it. And so anyway, jumped in, did the course. Well, I didn't jump in because I signed up for the course. Yeah. And like 2 weeks in, I was like, I can't do this right now. So I actually didn't take it live with you. And then in January, like after all the rush of Christmas, I was like, okay, now I'm going to do this on my own. And so I wasn't even live. I was like listening a couple months late to all of the different classes that you offered. But I like committed to it more fully, and I did every week. And I started 3 times a week with the meditating. I was like, I'm not even going to jump in every day. And then I still like every week I would just meditate 1 extra day or whatever it was. Anyway, it's only been like 3-4 months. And I just feel like I am a little bit of a different person. And I don't know if anyone else even notices, but just doing that daily has brought me so much more peace. I'm way more calm, less reactive about things. I notice it especially in my mothering, that I have an easier time kind of stepping outside of a situation and seeing it for what it is, which is usually like not as big of a deal as it seems like. But also just even, I find myself like deep breathing more. Like if I'm just like sitting in my family room and like, I'll just find myself like closing my eyes and kind of looking for that kind of quick, I don't know. Yeah. You know, I don't have 15 minutes, but I know that I can calm myself down in like 3 breaths.
And like get back in tune.
Yes. And my husband will be like, oh, you're just meditating right now? And I'm like, no, I'm just like kind of centering myself.
Yes.
And I don't even necessarily feel the heart coherence in that short of span, but I do feel centered and like opened up. And anyway, the biggest change that I can see is my lack of stress about my house, which is like, this was like the craziest realization that I had, because I used to just stress so much about how annoying it was that my kids were just messing up my house all day, and I was just cleaning all day long. But I wanted to spend more time with my kids, but I couldn't, because I honestly had to be cleaning all day because I wanted to have a beautiful home that whenever people came over, it was clean. Mm-hmm. And I've kind of been able to be okay with letting that go. And I just have so many young moms talk to me about how stressful that is. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was me very short time ago. And all of a sudden I don't stress about it anymore. Mm-hmm. And I've been able to give way more time to my kids, and I feel more fulfilled. Yeah. And that's, I think, the biggest thing is, I always thought like, I will be more fulfilled if I have the clean house and all these things, and the productivity was always what has driven me. But doing Heart Coherence and finding that like inner centeredness every day, is that a word?
Yeah,
centeredness.
Sure. I don't know what it is today.
Every day has kind of helped me to like not care about the things that don't matter, and I wasn't expecting that. So anyway.
Well, and I think that when you're in that space, you can then walk with your children through the keeping of the house differently. You have more presence and mindfulness in the way that you can approach them and help them, like sort of train them, right?
Yeah.
Whereas before, it's like just a state of annoyance. It's just a state of like, and that is a big shift internally.
And it was it was like a method of control where I was just like, I can take control of this clean environment, and I'm not living in squalor now. I feel like my home is still relatively clean, but it isn't clean at all times of the day. Yeah. Like in the middle of the day, if you come over,
you're a person.
I'm unapologetically like in the middle of my day, and my children are clearly there. And it's just been so nice to like, somehow I've let go of that control that I've been holding on to for 8 years, since as long as my first has been alive. And all of a sudden I'm like, this is a better way to live, to be a parent and a housemaker and all the things.
And sort of less tied to the environment having to be a certain way for you to be a certain way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
You can.
I still do enjoy a clean home.
Totally.
But it doesn't rule me. Yeah. I guess. Yeah.
I was going to say, when you were like, I don't think I'm like Mesha. When you described your personality, you have no idea. Like, I am exactly that personality. And when I watch you and the things that you do, I'm like, I feel so much like Kaylee's a mirror. Like, I feel...
Really?
I really
do. That
is
so interesting.
So isn't... Just to point that out, because I think we often look at other people and we put them in different categories. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And sure, it's great to look at someone and go like, oh, there's something about them that I really love and I want to know more about, right? But not to separate yourself from that person, right?
Yeah.
Like, you really are like... Anyway, and I know.
Well, and I'm seeing you on maybe the other side of this journey.
Yeah.
That you've done so much work in Heart Coherence and learning all these things, and I haven't.
Yeah.
And so on this side of it, I'm like, wow, Mesha just knows so much, and you're so calm and present and relaxed, and I didn't feel like I was that person. Yeah. But also, you've done a lot of work to get where you are.
100%. Because I was my greatest strength is that I can control situation. My greatest weakness is that I can control a situation.
Yeah. Completely. Oh, yeah. I feel that.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so I really love the way that you outlined all of that for us. And I love the idea of really paying attention to what's happening inside of you, an internal change. And it's evidenced by the house example, right? The house example of like, I don't have to control the outsides for everything inside to line up, I think you mentioned a little bit about your mothering. You mentioned that you have more capability to be able to see what's actually happening, the situation for what it is. So can you expand on that a little bit more and help us see, like, I guess for me, sometimes I feel like I experienced when I started to come into mindfulness and all of this space, I started to come into this place where when I had a pause, it was like I had more time. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand that?
I think so.
It is literally like before it was like I would have these automatic reactions that almost didn't feel like they were
A choice
at all. And I saw a meme the other day that said something like parents, expect so much of their children to like control their emotions and they can't even control theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's so many things about parenting and you can just say almost everything with parenting that like it all starts with us. But I just think of like how huge this one little thing is that you've gained more space in being able to not have those reactions, those really, really quick, and more space to be able to approach the situation and not make it about how it threw you.
Mm-hmm.
Like it threw you off and it's an inconvenience to you and you're impatient and all this stuff because the kid can never learn when it's like that. And so I have a lot of people who will say, but how do I do that? How do I get there? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, well, it's really simple.
Yeah.
It's literally 15 minutes a day
Yeah.
to have that shift and many other shifts. Is there anything you want to say about parenting a little bit more in depth?
Yeah, well, I think what's interesting is it's not necessarily a quick fix. Like, I think if it was like, hey, you just have to do 15 minutes a day and then you did it one time and you were like a completely different parent, then you'd be like, everyone would do it.
Yeah.
Because you'd see the immediate gratification. But that's what's interesting is I think it is like a very gradual change. And so just like what I was saying about the clean house, it wasn't like overnight all of a sudden I was a completely different parent. It was like after practicing this for, 2 months or 3 months, I was able to kind of have those moments where I was like, oh, wow, I'm reacting differently in this situation than I would have. And I think you nailed it with the pause. I always explain it as a perspective. That's the word that always comes to my mind because it's like that extra second where I'm just able to like look at things from an outside view and it just helps so much. I think as a parent, if you're able to just step back and be like, this actually isn't going to matter in one day or even in 1 hour or in a week or, however long it is, it's like, this isn't going to matter. They spilled milk all over the floor that I just barely cleaned, but like, that's totally fine. They can clean it up right now and it will be sticky or you know what? Whereas before that would have just been like infuriating. Like you want to bash your head against the wall. And so, yeah, I've had a ton of moments like that, but I didn't catch on to them. Like it's an interesting question to ask because I think I could pull so many very, very small moments out that might not seem significant to tell even, but they add up and I think I see it the most in comparing to my husband, which he's a wonderful father and a wonderful person, but he's not practicing meditation daily.
Yeah.
And there are times when I'm like, oh, that is kind of, what I used to do. Like he'll just kind of jump on him a little bit quicker or take away a privilege a little bit quicker. And I'll be kind of like, that was, a little bit quick, like a little bit reactive, where it's exactly what I would have done. And so that's been, I think it's almost like a mirror in him where like we are so in sync with our parenting. And then there's been times where I'm like, that was not what I would have done right now. Yeah. Because anyway, so
still allowing him the space to grow.
And I let him kind of do his thing, but it's just interesting to be like, that actually isn't what I would do right now. I think I would have a little bit, give him a little more time or, whatever it is.
So be able to walk through it differently for sure.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So overall, would you say there's the category of parenting, but you're also a wife. You're also a person who just functions in the world. And I think a lot of people with heart coherence, they just find more ease in the functioning of their life, in being able to handle life and being able to, apply themselves to think more clearly. So many beautiful things that heart coherence brings. What other areas have you found beside or outside of parenting as well?
I was just thinking the word capacity too, because I do feel like my capacity and ability has increased, but I don't know if I have any examples of specific things that I've been able to apply it to other than just not caring about, like, not stressing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like there's always the stress of like, oh my gosh, I have this and this and this, and just that ability to have the perspective and just, for example, saying no to certain things and not letting it stress me, where it's like, actually, that is not what I need right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say no to this outing that, you know, even if it's a good thing,
Mm-hmm.
where I had a really hard time with that before. Now it's like,
Mm-hmm.
actually, that's not what I need right now. And the ability to do that and to give myself permission to kind of say no if it's something that's not good for me in the moment, even that alone has just like decreased my stress so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the control again, almost just like giving up control of like, I have to be doing all these things and I have to
Mm-hmm.
do them all well, and just being able to say, but it's okay if I don't.
Yeah.
And I'm still a
Mm-hmm.
very like good person, and I'm choosing those things that are best for my soul right now.
Right. Right.
And so I don't know, nothing specific, but it's just been kind of like creeping into all of the little fibers of my day, I feel like. And so that I'm overall way less worried
Mm-hmm.
about different things.
Right. So that dramatically affects your internal state, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Oh yeah.
And parenting, I think if you are a parent, that's probably where you're going to see it the most, because you're tested the most. Wherever you're tested the most in life, you're going to see it the most immediately. So if that's at work, if that's at home, if that's, you know, in whatever arena you're being asked the most, you'll see it most, you know, at first.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to see this ease. This, you can just approach life and be in what would be more of a flow versus a force.
Yeah.
And it just changes the way that the place you're sitting and everywhere that you come from. And so it's just fascinating to me to really get into like the nitty gritty of how people are really seeing it move forward in their life. So now I want to ask you about how it actually feels inside of you, heart coherence. Like when you get into this state of heart coherence, I think that's something that people are really curious about, because, for example, you said that you started with just 3 times a week,
mm-hmm.
and then you moved to more. And, you know, somebody asked me the other day, how often do you meditate? I'm like, every day. And I do meditate every day. And if I miss a day or miss 3 days, I don't get wrapped up about it.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah.
But the point is like, there comes a point when it shifts from something that you have to do or that's on your schedule that you're being integral to yourself to show up and do, to
mm-hmm.
something that you highly desire because of how it feels.
Yeah.
And so I want you to kind of like talk a little bit about that and just how it feels inside of you.
Okay. Yeah, I do feel like, as a caveat, I don't feel like every time I meditate, I am getting into heart coherence. Like, I still am in a very like early learning stage. That's the goal every time. But there is a lot of times where I am like just not in the headspace. And I'm most of the time listening to one of your meditations you gave us in the course.
Right. And let me pause you really quick. So the course is 6 weeks, an hour and a half for each class. And then there are like 19 or 20 meditations that come with the course. So that's what she's saying when she says one of my meditations, they all belong inside the Heart Sync course.
Yeah, so I just have all those saved on my phone, and I'll just kind of scroll through them and pick one. Mm-hmm. Like yesterday, I chose one about sending energy to myself because I have this like ache in my back, and I just kind of was like trying to send energy to my back. And anyway, so it's not every day that I do feel what I have defined as heart coherence, but it's, I still think, always helpful. And I want to say it was probably 4 weeks. Did I tell you that? 4 weeks of trying like the meditating on a regular basis before I even really knew what it was. I was like, I don't think I'm going to feel this for like a year, Mesha, because I'm not as zen as you. I think I said that to you. But then I started to feel like an opening and kind of almost like a rush in my chest where it was. And I think you explained it as like kind of a dancing cells or like opening cells.
Yeah.
And so I think after about 4 weeks, I was like, I think that was what she's talking about. And it almost to me feels like I have to like gasp for more air, not because I need it, but because it's like opening or something. I wanted to be like, because it feels like I'm getting this huge intake of air, but I'm not necessarily gasping. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's something that takes your breath away.
Yeah. And so that's what it feels like for me. And a lot of times it will come and go, or I'll sit in it for a couple minutes. But usually it happens when I'm like, especially combining the like heart breathing with positive thoughts. So my favorite thing is when I think about, I do like a gratitude practice, and that's my favorite. It's just like breathing in and thinking of things I'm grateful for. And that's like the fastest way that I'll just like get into this happy place. And it's like, it feels good. And sometimes I'll even pray in that state where I'm just like kind of turns meditation into prayer. And then it's just like, it feels so good. And it does make me feel very centered and like I'm where I'm supposed to be. Like, this is how I'm supposed to feel right now. This is kind of the stillness that I was looking for. And so anyway, I do feel like that's happening multiple times a week, but it's not every single day. And I don't think I've fully switched to like I still think I need to have it on my to-do list to be doing it. Like,
for sure.
I still am not in that space where I'm like, I'm going to do this every single day because I want to. I think it's still kind of like the want to, but I also know that I have to.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know when it switches,
sure.
but I feel like that with, like prayer.
Yeah.
Some days I'm just like, I need to have this on my to-do list or else I'm not going to do it,
Everything.
Yeah,
Everything.
I know.
Like, especially the things that are just like the non-negotiables of our life.
Yeah.
Right. And however many you have that are not negotiable, that you just feel like that and those choices that I'm making make me who I am. Those things that you do every day that bring you into a different state and help you shift and help you become, those are the things that, even as much as we like them and can find joy in doing them and how much the big payoff is, I think there's still a regimen that says to us, like, this is what we do every day.
Yeah. And and I do think I have found enough, I don't know, peace and joy and all the things I've explained through this that I'm like, I will be doing this. I think I'm just going to be meditating forever now.
Yeah.
Because I can't not, now that I've seen the benefits and just felt that. And I just imagine in the future, like, if I ever get out of this practice, I think it'll be so obvious. Yeah. Like, it will be like, oh my gosh, I need to start again. Like, I'm losing all these things that I gained, and that's why, because I'm not meditating anymore, and it just because of what I've seen, it'll be easy to kind of pinpoint if it ever leaves.
Yeah, for sure. And something that like I felt, and maybe you can like back me up, and maybe not yet, I don't know, but like, I definitely feel what you're saying around like, it wasn't heart coherence every day. Okay. Which is kind of an interesting thing, because the truest state of heart coherence is really just peace. So when it really comes down to like your heart rate variability, and it can be measured. And that feeling that a lot of people will describe when they describe heart coherence is just simply peace in their body. And so you probably are feeling heart coherence more than you think.
That's true.
Because we also associate this big feeling in our chest with heart coherence that just literally washes over you. It feels like that warm shower that you can't bring yourself to get out of because you just love it so much. But that feeling, I feel like the more that I'm consistent with my meditation, the easier I can find that feeling. So that's something that is like really, really helpful for me. But if I do have time where I like, it's holiday, families crawling in every nook and crevice of your house, and you don't have like those quiet spaces, or you're not making the space for that. A lot of times that will happen to me during like a holiday, and then I will feel thrown. Like, I will feel like, wait a minute, let me get back into like that alignment and that centeredness, But I feel like the more that I do it, the more that I can access that big heart feeling, which is, I kind of wonder if you would start to see a pattern there,
I think so. And I think even when I have a few days in a row where I'm really distracted, like I do notice, I think I agree with that. I really resonated in your course when you talked about the teeter-totter example. I always picture that of like, the more you do it, the more you're like kind of hovering near it.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know if your listeners even know that, but
they don't.
Yeah,
but
I was going to say, and it's also kind of a visual thing, but I think of that and I do like imagine myself there when I'm like, when I've been extra distracted or with family or whatever, I can feel myself kind of not as close to that
dipping
center,
in part, like
Mm-hmm.
that, like I can just fall into it so quickly,
Yeah,
type of
even
thing.
just with like a few
Yeah.
breaths, like it. Yeah.
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 It's interesting too, because when we go to places that are places where we can just sit and think, sacred places, or even like concerts, or places that like where you're hearing beautiful music or whatever, I now it is like a whole nother level of entertainment, because I will sit and drop into heart coherence in those places, and I'm like completely washed over and experiencing this feeling inside that feels off the charts amazing.
That
And
is so cool.
so remember that, like,
Yeah.
when you're in a place where you can just kind of focus on your breathing and still focus on what's happening around you,
Mm-hmm.
it is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. That's a state that you will move into. So
well, it's kind of the epitome of just being present in the moment, which is ultimate enjoyment of of the performance. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
cool.
Yeah. So I think as far as heart coherence, we're pretty clear that it's bringing more ease into your life. We're pretty clear that you have more capacity. We understand how it feels for you to be in heart coherence. There is a certain chemical makeup that we have inside of our body, and everybody has a different chemical makeup, and that really is conclusive of how we feel every day, right? So some people are really, really struggling, and they have these chemicals that are released inside of their body, and they don't realize or don't understand that they can actually do something to shift that. So with you, your example has been a lot about like letting go of the control, but I want you to describe what you feel like might be chemically different inside of your body, or the actual emotion or state. Like, do you feel different actually even when you wake up? Do you actually feel emotionally something different more than what you've described? Because obviously you've told us that you are not in such a place of worry,
Mm-hmm.
which is a certain chemical that your body is releasing, and you're more in a state of peace and ease and calm, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole equation with the way that we feel is the way we feel, we attract more of that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it is that you're feeling, we bring more of that thing into our life naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just like what you focus on grows, and what you are currently being, you bring more of, and your subconscious mind says like, I need more of this. This is how my body functions, And so I'm just curious, like, do you actually feel something chemically shift inside of you, or where you might not know it as chemical, you would know it as an emotion that you feel?
Mm-hmm.
Anything different than what you've described?
The only thing that comes to mind is with the kind of calm that I've explained comes a little bit more of an ability to like reason. I don't know if that I'm a little less emotional, especially with interactions with my husband, whereas normally maybe I would be quick to take offense or be a little bit irrational.
Yeah.
I think I've been able to, just with, I guess, any marriage, maybe this is just something me and my husband have always struggled with, but, getting a little bit defensive or thinking that you're right about something, or, whatever it is. I think I've had more of an ability to see his side, stay calm, not be offended.
Yeah.
Like if he's late for something or if he forgets to do something, I just kind of like laugh about it instead of being like so frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Is that like a chemical difference? That's
for sure
the only thing that I am thinking of that's different than what I've already said.
That's for sure a chemical difference. And I feel like, just to state the baseline shift, where you probably still experienced a lot of peace and ease in your life, but you were doing the things externally to control and bring that into your life, versus now you can see that internally you're achieving that state, and therefore everything on the outside then mirrors and mimics what you're already feeling inside, versus having to kind of play that catch up to get yourself into a place. Does that resonate?
Yeah, which is so interesting because I'm not doing that consciously.
Yeah.
Like I'm not thinking like,
Yeah.
I am going to match the outside state with my internal state. Like that's never gone through my mind.
Yeah.
But I do think, yeah, I can see truth in that where I'm just more like at peace with who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And so things don't necessarily get under my skin as
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah. And it just naturally, your environment naturally unfolds to match what we're internally creating.
Yeah. And so I think I can find maybe more humor in situations. Like, okay, this is an example with my husband. I like have always gotten so frustrated with him in the car. I am the worst backseat driver.
Yeah.
I like think he's a wonderful and very intelligent person, but when we're driving in the car together, sometimes I'm like, you are the dumbest person in the whole world. Like he'll miss a turn or whatever it is. And like for our whole marriage, he's always just like, you are such a nice person. But when we are in the car, something happens. And I'm like, I don't know. And I think it is like I like to get places and like
to be in control.
If we're running places and then we're like late because he like didn't know where some place was that we've been 20 times that I feel like he should know where it is, you know, whatever. And at the beginning of this year, I did make a goal. So it was like right before I started your course, I was like, in 2024, I'm going to be nice in the car.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I knew it was a me problem. It was not a Darren problem. It was like, it was me. And so anyway, but I have been like, just able to laugh at stuff. Yeah. And like, that is not, it's just not normally me, which is like the saddest thing to admit. But just like when he misses a turn, just like laughing about it and just being like, oh man, like, I don't know, just kind of poking fun and being a little more flirty with it even I've never been able to do that. Yeah. So that's just something too, where I think it kind of is an example of what I was saying as far as like, instead of getting defensive or getting angry, I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah. Like, you're just so much more ease. So it's interesting too, that your main emotion that you've been able to receive or to be able to come into something that's different is peace and ease. Right. And probably gratitude a little bit too. You kind of mentioned. It's interesting to note, and I think that you know this, you can really bring anything you want into your life. So if you want to experience more joy, more excitement, more love, more, right? It's when you're in heart coherence and you focus on that feeling, then it teaches your body the pattern and to know how to get to that space and the chemical makeup to create that space and all of the business. And then all of a sudden, your life is mimicking what you're practicing when you're sitting in your heart coherent practice. Yeah. So I just want to state that because I think there's a lot of people, especially I think moms, who will associate with your story right now. You know what I mean? But I also have lots of moms. Like I have one mom who was really, she was actually suicidal. Her emotional and chemical makeup and her internal state was just these patterns of continually moving into just like worry, anger, fear, depression, all of these like really low, and you can shift that. You can shift it. And so I think it's really important to like point out, okay, it's cool to see like what you are experiencing and to be able to allow people to also resonate with that, but to also know that there's so many things that you can bring forward because you're willing just to sit in the space. Yeah. It's cool stuff.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I'm a believer.
Yeah. Cool. Is there anything else that you want to share that you feel like people might want to know or understand about heart coherence, or any last words that you might have?
I think I haven't like shared as much of my experience with my close friends. I've like mentioned that I'm doing this course and things, but for me, I wanted to do this for a long time and I just never made it happen. I think from my experience, I just kind of recognize like people have to want to do it. I'm not going to like convince anyone to meditate every single day. Yeah. And like, hopefully my experience, you know, if other people are looking for this too, then they can dive in and like have the same experience that I did. But also it's like exercising. Like I'm not going to convince anyone to do it unless they want to. And so that's where I think I've kind of held back from sharing my experiences, and I'm realizing, you know what, but maybe hearing this will help someone to have that extra motivation. Yeah. But ultimately, if you want to do it, Like, and if you want to make it happen and you want your life to change in these ways, just do it. Because I waited for so long. I would say it was about 3 years, like ever since moving here, that I was like kind of feeling the nudges of like, I really want to get into meditation. Oh yeah, I really do. But I never prioritized it. It was always kind of like the second thing that I wanted to do at the time or whatever. And just making that shift, it really did help me so much. And so I would just say, obviously you have to be the one that wants to do it.
To find the motivation.
No one's going to be able to do it for you.
And find the time.
Yeah. But if you want to do it, then make it happen and you won't regret it.
Yeah. So. That's great. I feel like it's interesting that when people say that they don't have time, and for me, I'm like, I don't have time to not because of how much time it actually gives me on the back end. Yeah. How much it saves me, how much of a better just life that I have. So. Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily getting more done, but I'm able to be okay with the things I'm not getting done that don't matter as much.
It's interesting though, because you do have more clarity the more that you do it. And so then you're able to like think faster, move faster. And you're able to, not that you're asked to, but if you need to in crunch times, like it's just, everything is more clear. It's less cluttered. And you can even just move through it with ease, just so much like one thing to the next, just in that flow state to where you might have been running your, turning your wheels over and over, trying to get the same amount done previously.
And I think it's the perspective, because it's like I'm able to just do the right thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just move forward to what I actually need to be doing instead of
5 steps before you get to
and doing things that maybe don't matter as much, like cleaning up the same mess for the 10th time when I could have just like left it there. And I don't know. I don't know.
A simple example, but yes, but it definitely really goes down like that. So, well, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. I hope that you really got something out of that episode, whether or not you are new to heart coherence or if you have been doing heart coherence for a long time. Even seeing the way that Kaylee experiences it can bring enlightenment to you. So hopefully you really got something out of that. If you feel really excited about heart coherence and it's something that you really want to learn how to do in your life, then I highly suggest you taking the Heart Sync course. The Heart Sync course is 6 weeks long, and you have 20 meditations inside of the course, and it's self-paced. You can do it at, whatever works for you and whatever times work for you of the day, and you can go as fast or as slow or whatever as you want. I'm going to put a link in the show notes so that you can be able to find where to sign up and more information if you are looking for, you just kind of have your interest piqued and you want to know a little bit more about HeartSync and how it actually can help you in your life. And you can always reach out to me. Send me a DM on Instagram at myfriendmesha. That's Mesha, my friend Mesha. And just ask away. There's absolutely no obligation simply because you're curious. So just know that. My life has really been impacted and been so different since I have known how to access this state. And I created a way for you to be able to experience heart coherence and to learn how to get into heart coherence in the most effective way that I could. So check out HeartSync. I hope it's something that really makes an impact in your life. Again, you can check in the show notes or you can go to myfriendmesha.com/heart-sync. And before we leave, I want to leave you with a quote from Doc Childre, who is the founder of Heart Math Institute, where they have studied heart math for over 30 years. He says, as Albert Einstein said years ago, the significant problems we face today cannot be solved at the same level of thinking we were at when we created them. Developing the capacity to deal with the challenge of living in a stressful, ever-changing world is now more important than ever. And essentially, he's talking about using your heart to increase that capacity. Until next time, my friend.